Welcome to our chat. I'm so excited to chat with you about We Call Them Witches, an incredible book. I absolutely devoured it, and so I'm so excited to chat to you about it. Before we get started, just to introduce you, India Rose Bauer was long listed for the Discoveries Prize and has several short stories and poems published in magazines and anthologies. Her hobbies are attending pagan festivals and watching horror films while working as a librarian. India Rose has a long-term disability and lives with her non-binary partner in Yorkshire. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. As we dive into the questions and chatting about the book, do you want to do a little reading from We Call Them Witches?
I've got something right from the very start of the book actually that I
Cool.
think is a good vibe.
Love it.
Okay. Nearly everyone died those first few nights. Sometimes I play it in my head, testing different possibilities, the way you reach deeper into a thicket of thorns for the last blackberries of the season. I search for ways they could have escaped, only to come back scratched and bloody with death in the palm of my hand. Next door's my go-to. I can imagine them easier. In my head tonight, the film opens with them at the table, playing Monopoly or the Game of Life or some other dusty board game that only gets pulled out at Christmas. The two teenage boys are curled around their stacks of fake money, eyeing each other like vultures, and Maria, their mum, is distracted by the milk simmering on the stove for hot chocolate. I get wide shots of the room, made cozy for winter, and close up of the boys and of the bit of the milk bubbling like the popcorn in Scream. When the milk boils over, hissing as it hits the stovetop, Maria gets up. And the reason I know that's not going to end well for her is that this is a film, and films have rules. The other reason I know is because I heard what happened from across the hallway. The scream when she reaches up for mugs in one of the tall cupboards and sees what's squatting on top of her fridge. The greying damp spot on her ceiling had bulged out when she wasn't watching, dripped bit by bit on top of the fridge, coalescing into something vicious and malformed with too many limbs. Maria stumbles back and knocks into the saucepan handle. The milk hisses louder, flecks of it spitting at her arms, but she's wearing a Christmas jumper, the kind that lights up so it doesn't hurt. She probably wouldn't have felt it even if her arms had been bare. The thing on the fridge has no eyes, but a mouth opens and she can see pipes, wires crisscrossing in its throat, like a whole section of the building has torn away, turned malevolent. She runs for her boys, but the thing is quicker than it looks. It springs from the fridge, landing heavily on the table. Monopoly money goes everywhere. Globs of grey mould splatter the game board. The boys are screaming now too. One of them's fallen back in his chair and his legs are caught in it as he desperately tries to scrabble backward. I used to play hide and seek in the lower car park with those boys. One of them got in a fight with my sibling Danny once. I don't remember their names. The thing reaches for one of them, doesn't matter which. It grabs their foot and black mould sprouts up their ankle, disappearing into their pajama leg. Maria screams and runs at the thing, but it's more solid than it looks. When she hits it, the mucus of its body melts away, letting Maria impale herself on the pipework of its skeleton. She coughs blood, and her sons are screaming, and outside the window there are monsters crawling from the roots of trees and surfacing green with weeds from duck ponds, and lumbering from closets that have never quite closed enough for comfort. Across the hall, we sit with our knees drawn tight to our chests, and here now, in this cottage so far from the city in that night, I draw the blankets over my head like drawing curtains over a film screen. It keeps its flickering projection up through all night.
Oh, that opening scene is so visceral and you just see it so well. And the witches are so horrific. And they kind of change throughout the book too, right? They're these just
Yeah.
freakish creatures from the earth. Do you want to tell us about the inspiration for the book and for the witches?
It came mostly from my own childhood, spending a lot of time in the woods around where I grew up. And trees are really scary. I say this all the time, and people look at me like I'm insane. But um, but like when you're out there in the woods on your own, and you turn around because you get that feeling that something's watching you, and you
Yeah.
see a tree, and you're like, was it there before? Like it's weird shape. I don't remember it being there before, and that's terrifying. And so the witches sort of grew from that and from the stories that my mum and my granddad would tell me about like kind of the local landscape and the creatures that lived in it. So yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, I love that. And you do such a good job throughout the book of that feeling of something just behind. And then obviously it's more than just a tree. It's something much scarier in this book.
Yeah.
Um, and it's so beautifully crafted. There's so much care and intention in these family dynamics. And so to hear that the inspiration comes from like stories you got from your family as well. What role does family play in the novel?
It's kind of the heart of it all. It's one of the things I was talking to my agent and my editor about very early on was that the family is the core of the novel and there's no escaping that. And it's Sarah's kind of downfall a little bit. The main character, Sarah, doesn't really fit in with her family. She has
Mm,
a place in it, but does she really want the place that she's in? And she's getting drawn away from the family, and the heart of the novel is her choices between family and freedom in a world where there really isn't any sort of freedom for her. She's 17, and
yeah.
it's that thing like when you're 17 you're just trying to find out who you are outside of the person everyone thinks you are, and she can't really do that because she's in the middle of an apocalypse, so it's tricky.
Slightly tricky, yeah. Yeah, she has
Yeah.
so much duty and responsibility like thrust on her, right? On top of everything, because she's basically the caregiver for her younger siblings.
Yeah.
And her mother is kind of dealing with trauma and not super present, really. So there's kind of this theme of like motherhood as well, pulsing underneath it all. Like, what is that choice? Does she want to take care of her siblings? Does she want to do that, right? Um, and it's just in such sharp contrast to like her desire to also be taken care of. Like there's scenes where she still feels like a child, right? When she wants her mother to hold her. And then scenes where she wants to have this relationship, right, outside of her family. How does that mix of wanting to be nurtured, and also wanting to be independent kind of fit within Sarah, if you see what I
It's
mean?
really hard. Yeah, she wants responsibility so badly. She feels like she's still being treated like a child, but at the same time, she has a massive amount of responsibility. She looks after the kids,
Mhm.
and a lot of what she's doing with them is trying to help them survive the terror that they're dealing with.
Mhm.
So she spends a lot of time playing games with them and coming up with ways to block out the screams that they hear every night from the
Mm,
witches,
mhm.
as you do. And so it's, yeah, but yeah, at the same time, she still wants that care that she's not getting from her mum. Her mum is just very focused on keeping them alive and not really
Mhm.
focused on like thriving, like their
Yeah.
actual life. Um and that is hard. I think it's I'm an older sibling, and I think a lot of that went into Sarah because it's that thing of kind of being expected to help raise your younger siblings while
Mhm.
also trying to find out who you are as a person. And Sarah's older sibling Danny is not necessarily the nurturing type, and is kind of
No.
doing the thing of like, you look after them, I'm not going to do that, I'm going to go and do like the things outside that's like down and dirty and stuff.
Mhm.
And Sarah just wants to be involved
Yeah.
with that, really.
Yeah. And kind of be seen as capable too, right? Like she doesn't
Yeah,
want
she
to.
does.
Mhm.
Yeah, she's absolutely, and I think she finds it really hard that the role's been relegated to. I think she sees it as not an important role,
Mhm.
um, I mean, it's an incredibly important role,
Yeah.
but in her head, it's she's not being treated as another grown up. She's being treated as one of the children,
Mhm.
and just shoved to one side. And I think a lot of the tension and conflict within her comes from that feeling of being, forgotten and pushed aside.
Yeah. Yeah. But there's so many scenes in the book where she is with the kids and she is playing games and it feels so authentic and so real, even though, we don't have actual witch-like creatures coming after us and
Thank
attacking
God.
us. Yeah. But still, like it still feels so real. Like there's still so many moments of just like cute, authentic sibling relationships that you capture so well. It's balanced so
Yeah,
beautifully.
well, It all came from, I mean, my younger sister is 13 years younger than me.
Mm,
So much of it, and especially Noah, so much of the relationship between Sarah and the younger kids comes from me and my little sister, and like how we um the me telling stories when she was scared, or telling stories to scare her is probably more accurate. And then kind of the Danny, Sarah, older child, kind of middle child tension. That's me
mm,
and my brother. Because
mm.
looking back, I was the older sibling that was like, "You go and do this," and I'm telling you what to do, even though I was like 2 years older than him. So yeah, it all really does come from my family. Yeah.
Those ties. Yeah. That's so interesting and so cool to like incorporate it all. The other thing that I think is interesting about this book being an apocalypse book, is also all the references to pop culture and like the horror movies that make it in. Um, it makes it feel very present, like, oh God, could this be our our near future? Um, like there's a bit on page 246, and it says, this would be the point in the horror movie when I'd be rolling my eyes at the TV, wearied by the characters. It's just not in human nature to run towards danger and dark, and yet here I am. Um, she's making references to her being in a horror movie. She's making references to horror movies she's seen. What would Sarah's horror movie of choice be? And can you tell us more about your own inspirations as well?
Absolutely. So I think Sarah would be she's into those kind of made for TV horror movies that are
Okay.
like terrible. So bad, but they're so bad that they're good.
Yeah.
Because like I grew up, my stepdad is kind of infamous for tearing apart films. So we would sit there on like Sundays and watch these terrible, awful monster movies or disaster movies and just eviscerate them. It's
Oh,
really
that's so
fun.
fun.
But yeah, I think Sarah and Danny spent a lot of time doing that pre-apocalypse, and
Yeah.
I think that's what she'd be into. But yeah, I really wasn't into horror movies until I was
Mm.
quite a lot older. I had a terrifying experience at a sleepover when I was 15 and swore them off forever. Um,
Really?
but I mean, it's just yeah, there's something about watching a horror movie as a teenager with your
Yeah.
friends that just makes it so much scarier.
Yeah.
Um, so I kind of came back to horror quite late on, and I love it. I think it's amazing. And I think that Sarah's character and the fact that she kind of incorporates so much of her knowledge of horror, um, I think kind of a bit of an inspiration for that was Stephen Graham Jones has a series, or actually, to be fair, a lot of his books do this, where he brings in horror references and film references.
Hmm.
And I think the like kind of intersection of film and literature and books is really interesting,
Yeah.
because I think they influence each other so heavily. And sometimes I feel like it's like there's a thing with literature, especially like horror literature, where it's like, oh, we shouldn't mention the horror films because they're kind of like schlocky and not,
Mm.
proper literature. But I don't, I just think they're cool. I love them so much.
Yeah. What do you feel that horror as a genre can do that maybe other genres can't do, if there is anything?
I think I think horror kind of it obviously I think it expresses like the fears we have as a culture at any given moment. And that
Mm.
changes throughout like time. But I think it also expresses kind of like the hope that we have in any given moment. And I think horrors can explore things that other genres can't always explore as well. Horror is you're able to, transgress a little bit more with horror
Mm.
than you would in
Mm.
any other genre. And it kind of means that you can explore more visceral, upsetting subjects, but things that are all
Mm.
quite universal as well. I'm not saying that we're all wanting to be cannibals, but but that feeling of for example, like of wanting to own somebody, or like being so obsessed with somebody that you want to crawl inside of them. Like horror can
Yeah.
express that in a way that I think other genres can't.
Yeah. Do you feel like it gets to the root of like what it is to be human in a sense? Some of those like
Yeah.
dark taboo pieces of us that we all carry. Um,
Yeah, it strips everything else away, I think.
yeah, it really gets to it. It's interesting. There's another part of this that's, I think, not explored in other horror so much is the paganism, the wards, the herbs. There's almost like a magic to it, right? And a lot of this knowledge is stuff that used to be passed down and has now been forgotten. And in the novel, it's even her mother who had like been raised with it and abandoned it to be an adult, right? And then this horror comes, as we kind of heard in that opening scene you read. And suddenly her childhood like teachings come back. And so she knows how to use wards and use herbs and to protect her family. How did pagan ritual influence the narrative or the story?
I think so kind of the year before I started writing this, I was going through a lot of hospital appointments trying to get a diagnosis for my chronic illness. And at the same time, because I wasn't getting very far with like,
Mm,
medical appointments, me and my mum were looking into other ways that could help. You end up on a lot of like forums
mm,
with people who have the same illness who are like, try doing this or try doing that. And some of it, doesn't work for everybody. But it really made me think about the way, especially women, have passed down knowledge throughout the centuries,
mm,
and this knowledge that's kind of sneered at a lot of the time by kind of patriarchal structures, um, and and how you reach for it when you're at your most desperate and darkest.
mm,
It kind of, it's not something you would ever think to reach for normally, but then
mm,
suddenly you have nowhere else to go, and it seems like a way to help yourself. So I think when I was thinking about that, I remember kind of writing a lot about these rituals that have been passed down and temporarily forgotten before they've been rediscovered. And that's kind of, it made its way into what I was writing. Um, and it's the same with like kind of any, oral tradition.
yeah.
You have stories being kind of passed from person to person to person, and if they don't ever get written down, sometimes they do get lost. And my granddad and my mum were very big on telling me stories, and like local stories and strange weird things that they also added to these local stories, and that's just how it is with oral storytelling.
Yeah. They morph.
So I think, yeah, they kind of all snowball.
Hmm.
So that all went into it when I was thinking about
Mm,
Sarah's mum.
yeah. Is there a story or information that your mom and your grandpa told you that really stuck with you?
There's so
Or is
many.
it all, I know, right? Like they're all a mix,
All of
right?
it. There's
Yeah.
um there's one of my favorites is a it's a local festival actually, but the story is that so basically the sighting of the first cuckoo, the hearing of the first cuckoo is like, yay, spring is here, everything's going
Mm.
to be okay. And one year these farmers decided they were going to try and keep spring, and so they built up a wall around this nesting cuckoo to try and keep it and to prevent winter from coming, but obviously they didn't give it a roof. So eventually when spring ended, the cuckoo flew away and winter came. And
Yeah.
but I always found that so interesting because so many of these stories are linked to fear. So that
Mm.
story, as much as like it's a big, festival and celebration, it's kind of silly. It's
Hmm.
linked to the fear of winter. Like these
Yeah.
pastoral, like rural communities, winter killed.
Yeah.
I mean, it still does, but not to the extent it used to. And so they were desperately trying to cling on to this thing that would keep them safe for a little
Yeah.
bit longer. And I think it's fascinating how the roots of these stories do often come back to survival. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
what definitely one of my favorites that they used
That's
to
so
tell me.
good. And it really shows too, kind of like what you were saying with horror too, of how it can get to like that piece of us, that fear of life is fragile, right?
Yeah,
Winter is can be desolate and hard and long. And so that fear of how do we hold on to this?
yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. Interesting. So what is your apocalypse plan, right? And if you could pick, well, I'll say this first. What's your apocalypse plan?
My family have always had a plan.
Of
Even
course.
before I wrote this, we've had an apocalypse plan. We have a particular like place, little remote place in Scotland that we aim for. And now my family have kind of separated and live in lots of different places. So I'm hoping if the apocalypse comes that we will all continue to like stick to that plan. I don't want to get to this place and then no one be there.
God, that's a
But
horror
yeah,
film in and of itself, right?
yeah, right. I was asking my partner about this the other day, and my partner said their apocalypse plan is the canals. We have such a like huge canal network in the UK, and so my partner was like, "I'm going to get a canal boat. I'm going to go along the canals. No one will bother me." And I was like, "That actually sounds really nice." Like, okay,
Sure, yeah. Float
cool.
along. Yeah. So then thinking of that, if you had to pick whether you faced a zombie, an eldritch horror, humanity, or some other miscellaneous danger, what would you choose? What do you think you're well equipped to face?
I I think humanity might be one of the scariest parts of it all, actually. Like
Yeah.
in any like apocalypse film, the scariest thing is always humanity. Like in The Walking Dead, the zombies like they're stressful, don't get me wrong, but the main issue they have is other humans. So I definitely wouldn't want to be facing humans. I think I could handle zombies. Like as long as they're not in a big crowd, they're
Yeah.
not awful. And I'd rather that than something eldritch and yeah, no, that's too spooky. I don't think I could handle that. I'm a hypocrite.
Oh, that's funny. Sarah can handle it.
Oh
Sarah's
yeah,
got
I'll
it
put
for
my
you.
characters through it, not
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Zombies are at least potentially slow, right? You could maybe
Right?
like outrun them
Exactly.
or scoot on a
Exactly.
canal
Yeah.
boat away. They can't swim.
Exactly. Like,
Um, so this is your debut, yeah? So what's been the most exciting or surprising part of the process with this coming out?
I think part of it is the sheer amount of people that are involved in publishing. Like the teams that have been involved in publishing this book. There's so many people. Like, you know, when I was going to write my acknowledgements, the list of people's names is insane that you would have to like, you know, it's just there's so many people and they're all at least you know my teams have all been absolutely incredible, amazing, kind of got this book right from the start. So that was quite a surprise for me. And and then just kind of like, I know it sounds silly and a little bit self-deprecating, but kind of the reaction it's had. It's so very weird to go and do panels and then have people coming up to me and telling me they enjoyed it. Or I was at a book launch for somebody else a few weeks ago, and someone came up to me and was like, "Are you Indie Rose Bauer?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like no one's ever noticed, like recognized me before, and they did, and it was a very strange moment, and I don't think I really expected that to happen. So that's been very
Oh,
fun.
wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Do you think it's been a fun thing too to like meet other authors, like you said, going to panels and like going to other openings and things?
It's been so cool, and I've been introduced to so many books that I might not have noticed. Of, I mean, like there's so many books in the
Yeah.
world. Like
Yeah.
choosing is impossible. So, meeting so many new different people and getting to read their work has been really, really cool. Especially because, like, I quite often seem to get put on panels with people who do horror that's kind of got a similar like heart to mine, but is in a completely different like niche genre,
Mm.
or you know does a slightly different thing. So it's interesting to kind of get a good wide array of horror vibes.
Yes. I love that. And I love that you just said same heart as yours, but maybe like a different niche area of it. That's
Yeah.
cool. What are you working on next?
Well, I am in the midst of writing a second book. It's writing second books is not easy. Ask
Really?
literally any person who has ever written a second book. It's rough. But no, I'm really enjoying it at the moment. I've been doing a lot of research, and by research I mean going on walks in the countryside and looking at bugs and animals and stuff. So
That's lovely.
like Yeah, I can't say much more than that, but
Mm,
it's still very folksy and still hopefully quite spooky. So yeah.
cool. Would you ever, do you think there's ever a sequel for We Call Them Witches? Like, do you think you'll ever follow Sarah again?
I've thought about it a lot, and I think if I ever went back into that world, I don't think it would be following Sarah. I don't think it would be that family. I know, I'm sorry.
Really? What?
I
Like,
just there's so much I want to do. Like oh my god, the witches. I'm really invested in the idea of doing something based by the sea, by the coast, because
mm,
coastal witches sounds completely terrifying to me. Because the sea is terrifying as is.
yeah.
But no, I think the thing about sometimes when you tell a story with characters and you finish it, sometimes they just take the reins and they go off. And I
Mm,
don't. I'm like, okay, they're doing their life now. I don't really know what's happening. People have asked me before, like, what do you think happens to the family at the end? And I was like, I don't know. I finished it. They're doing it's on them now.
they're
Like
going.
I've got no control. Um,
Yeah.
and I've also considered doing something that's more of a prequel, harking back to when the witches showed up for the first time, way back, kind of prehistory.
Mm,
Um,
that'd be cool.
but that would be cool. But I feel like it would take a lot of research. So
Yeah.
we'll see. It's not a no for sure.
Yeah. Interesting. That's so cool. Oh, devastating though, because there's such a choice at the end.
I'm so
Of
sorry.
evil. You're not though.
Not really, no.
So funny. What should we expect in the future? So you're working on another book. Anything else you want people to know about, or places you want people to find you or follow you?
I mean, anything that I'm doing is I usually post on my Instagram, which is my name at India Rose Bauer. But yeah, that's pretty much where I put everything. And when I say I mean my partner who does all my social media for me because I mean I do my social media, but my partner kind of prepares all the posts because I'm not designed for this life. So yeah,
Who is? Oh,
right.
that's so sweet.
Yeah.
Any upcoming books or films you would recommend in the horror genre?
I just read it. I think it has recently just come out, but I just read Homesick by Rhiannon Grist, and that is, oh my God, it's a folk horror, kind of like an isolationist folk horror, and it was, yeah, really, really, really good. Very like
Mhm.
ragey, which I love, and
Yes.
just kind of creepy. Like it made my skin crawl, so that's always a good sign. Yeah.
Yeah. Rage and skin crawl. What else could we look
Mhm.
for? Cool.
Well, exactly, right?
Well, rage, skin crawling, horrific creatures is in We Call Them Witches. So people should definitely pick this up if they haven't already. And India Rose, thank you so much. This was so lovely to
Thank
chat
you.
with you. Yeah,
It's been lovely.
awesome.